Hello everybody. Our goal in this demonstration is to create a box of 10 greeting cards using the drop ink and press painting techniques that I used to make the pictures that you just saw. So let's get started. The paper that we use to make these greeting cards is made from photo paper. You can use any brand as long as it's glossy. You can cut 4 pieces from an 8.5 by 11 sheet, which will give you 4 pieces per sheet, or you can buy the paper in 4 by 6 sheets. You can also get glossy photo paper from the dollar stores, but you want to be careful, open it up and check, because a lot of times the paper is marked glossy and it isn't. The next thing you're going to have is a pair of rubber gloves. They're a must. These inks and food dyes are really tough to get off your skin. Regular dishwashing gloves are good too, and have the advantage of being easier to put on and take off. The first thing we want to do is construct a little workstation. It's just some pieces of scrap woodwork with some glass glued onto it as shown here. When we get into press painting, we'll need another piece of glass to press down on the bottom of this glass. This is the top piece shown here. Now here is a view of how it will be used. The card is sandwiched between the 2 pieces of glass, and the paint on the card is squeezed into infinite patterns. Now let's talk about inks. These are Copic inks. They're alcohol-based inks, and they react with water, just the opposite of what you'd think they react with. Let's take a look and see how they react with water on our little stand that we constructed. Here we go. First we're going to spray some water on the glass, and we're going to stick a piece of paper on there. The water helps the paper stick and be steady. Now we're going to spray some water on top of the card and take some Copic ink and watch what happens. See how the ink is dispersed by the water, which is very interesting because you think it would have been alcohol that would have done this, but it's just the opposite. It makes it very interesting. Now we can take some more colors, drop it on there, get completely different patterns. All depends on if you want to drop it, wiggle it around, or whatever you'd like to do. So let's see what happens here with a few more colors. And there we have it. This is a demo of how a card can react with water. Now let's blot it a little bit. And this card would be dry by tomorrow, and it would be all ready to mount on your stationery. Now let's take another form of ink, commonly known as food coloring, which I happened to purchase at the dollar store. You get 4 colors for $1, and it's already in its little drip bottles, which is very nice. Now, food coloring will react with alcohol, which is exactly the opposite of what you'd think. So here's a little demonstration of what happens when you pour alcohol on some food coloring. Keep in mind this alcohol is nothing but the type of rubbing alcohol that you buy at the hardware store or drugstore. The more you drop on it, the more it reacts. Let's put another color on there. Little yellow and blue. That's going to give us some green also. And what you can do when you're done here, you can just dab it around a little bit if you want to do it, and just be kind of creative with your fingers. It's almost a kind of a finger paint type dabbing effect. We could call it dabble painting, possibly. And here's what you can end up with, just food dye. Now let's try an actual card using Copic ink. Here we secure our piece of photo paper on the little stage of the workplace, and this time we're going to put the Copic inks on dry, just to get a completely different effect. Put a little yellow on there. Now we give it a spray of water. I don't know if you saw that in the video, but that's when they started to move. So what we did, we put the ink on first, then we put the water on, and this is the effect we get. Now let's try a little more ink just for fun. And let's dabble this around a little bit. Okay, now let's take our paper towel and we will pick up some of the ink that's left there and we'll have a finished card. The many different effects you can get. Every time will be completely different. Now let's do a complete card using food coloring. We anchor our page on the workstation and we drop food coloring onto the paper. Now we're going to do this two different ways with adding the alcohol. First time we're going to use some drops of alcohol out of our little eyedropper. Then we're going to add a little more color. Now this time we're going to spray from the top. I have a little sprayer with alcohol in it, so we're going to do that over to the side and watch the reaction. It just brings everything together. Now we can dabble a little bit. You can actually fill up this card and you don't have to do any dabbling and let it dry. It'll actually dry the darker colors. Sometimes the darker colors will take a couple days because you're actually evaporating a little bit more water. Here's a nice looking card. You leave it up to your imagination to see what that would be. Let's get some of the ink off though, just to give you an idea. And here we have a work of art. I think Picasso might be jealous. Now let's try some press painting. We put our water on there to anchor our piece of paper. This is very important in press painting. And this time we're going to use acrylic paints. The brand is unimportant. The cheapest you can buy them, I think, will work just as well as the expensive ones. Now there's many variations of how you can do this. You can dabble it on, you can put round dots on it, press it and make flowers out of it. Very, very interesting how you can do this. Now we're going to press it, and the pattern you get is all going to depend on how hard you press the top layer of glass onto the bottom layer of glass. Sometimes it'll stick, so you're going to have one of those little razor knives to peel off the bottom. And here we're using it right here. Just hold it down there in the bottom and pull off the glass. And there you have an example of press painting. Now let's make a press painting and let's add Copic ink and food coloring to it and see what we come up with. You can mix all three of these mediums. Here goes some acrylic paint. Just smudge it around if you want. You don't have to if you don't want to. Dabble a little green on there. And while we're at it, we'll throw on a little red. Put a little water on there. Give it a quick squash. Lift it up. Now let's take some Copic ink, which is alcohol based. Add a little water to it. You notice we're not getting a huge effect here, I think because we can't see it. But we can push it around so it'll do more good in other areas. Now we're going to add some food coloring right over the top of the acrylic. And we're going to put some drops of alcohol on that to spread it around. Now this is very interesting because it has the same reaction and you get brilliant different patterns. Now let's press this thing and see what happens. Just give it a good old American press. Bring it up slowly. And we have a combo card. Now here we'll have a little bit of fun. We'll anchor our card to the workstation, and we'll put some watercolored inks on here. Now the watercolors are in eyedroppers this time because I dilute the watercolors to different consistencies to get lighter or darker shades. Obviously your darkest shade will be solid, and your lightest shade would be like 20% food coloring to 80% water. Now let's take our straw, and there we have a completely different thing. You can blot that if you want, or you can just let it dry the way it is. Now here's the last example I'd like to show you. If you're going to paint over your colors or put any embellishments on there, this is a very nice way to make a very easy background. It's very subdued, but you still have your multitude of colors. What we're going to do is we're putting on the food coloring, and then we're going to blow it with a straw, but we have a lot of water on there, so we're not going to get a lot of that spot effect. We're going to get a very subdued background that comes together a little bit more. The next question is, where do we put these to dry? Foam board is a wonderful thing to use. It's very light. You can put a lot of cards on them, and you can put them wherever you want to. Now before we get into how to mount the card, there's things you can do to the card before you mount it. One of the things that I like are these little corner punches that you can buy all over the place. I just think they're really cool. And here's a few examples of the cards before you punch them and after you punch them. Other things you can do, you can put little fish stickers on there like I did on here. It makes it look like you're actually underwater. Little kids like the stickers a lot. Here's another one with some fish, only a little different background, a little bluer water, and we have a little shell down there in the left bottom center. Now here's a crab trying to get a fish. I hope the fish gets away. And here's an interesting thing. I just took a black pen and outlined a lot of the blobs, for want of a better word, and it's very interesting how they just popped right out. And if you want to paint, you can paint any picture you'd like on there and have a beautiful background. The last thing you want to do is sign your card. I sign my cards, and then I always put 1 of 1 so people will know that it's the only one of its kind. Now we're ready to make cards out of these little masterpieces. Get your 40% coupon and go over to Michael's, and they have these packages in the scrapbook department, and they are really inexpensive with your coupon. You can get enough to make 5 sets of cards, 10 each. That's 50 cards and 50 envelopes for around $5. Great buy. Now, I want to tell you something. When you fold these cards, you want to make sure that the corners are very even. Otherwise, it looks very unprofessional. So you want to fold it, push down real hard, then crease it with a Bic pen or some type of a smooth surface. Now let's attach our picture to the card. There's several ways to do it. The permanent way to do it is to use this type of aerosol spray. You have to use it in a well-ventilated area. It can be really bad for your lungs. When I use it, I wear one of these, and I would definitely recommend that whoever else uses it, buy one of these things. It definitely will save your lungs. Another way to attach your pictures to the card is using these little photo corners. These are very nice if you want to send it to somebody and they want to take the picture off to frame it. A lot of people do frame them because they are so beautiful. As you can see, it's practically invisible. Now, the way I prefer to mount my cards is using the Scotch tape glider. This is a machine that lays down only the adhesive part of the tape, not the cellophane. There's no cellophane involved in this. Gives you a very tight bond, very easy to use, and in the long run, it's cheaper than using double-sided tape. Here's a side view of how it's loaded. Spools hold 72 yards of the adhesive. Now here's some videos of how you actually use it. You just push your trigger and snap it. Push the trigger and snap it here. And we get our card, which we folded before. And we eyeball it till we get it centered as much as possible. Press down on it. And we have our finished card. Now let's take a box. Put 10 envelopes in it. Put our 10 cards in it, which we've already done. And cover it with an isinglass cover. And then we'll get some little ornamental elastic, which we will use to hold down the sides of the box. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's demonstration. I certainly enjoyed putting it on for you, and I thank you very much, and I hope you have fun making cards. If you ever have any questions about how to do this, please let me know. Thank you very much.